Okay. So last time I was trying to use this Reddit API, and that didn't go very well. What's up? So what? 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 Okay. And okay, so what was the problem? The problem was that it's using OAuth, and the documentation, or in my opinion, is not very clear. For starters, they don't mention what's the base URL. So all this stuff has to be related to a base URL. And if you go to this API access rules document, they explain how you are supposed to do OAuth too. So that's about getting the token. If you go here, we actually have a pretty good description of the workflow. And at the end, you would get this token, this access token. But then they don't say what you're supposed to do with it. Right? API request with a bird should be. Oh, no, what? You missed this part. Right, so that's the part I missed. And I made this here. So I fixed it. And now it's working. Right. So what's this OAuth 2 workflow, just in case you're not familiar with this? Well, obviously this is about authentication. And this is about authentication to a website, and there's some standard for doing so. If you have an application that needs to authenticate to, in this case, Reddit, in the past, what you would have to do is basically have your app ask for your username and password, and then your app will connect to, let's say, Reddit in this case, using that username and password. So the problem with this approach is that somehow you have to trust the app to be legitimate, to actually not use your credentials for any other reason than what you have, what you're asking this app to do. And when it's your own app, then that makes sense, right? Your app obviously wrote everything, so it's not going to do anything shady besides the shadiness that you have done. But if that's a third-party app, that could be way more problematic. So in essence, you wouldn't want to give your username and password to any random application, just because the application is able to do something on your behalf. So with the beauty of OAuth 2 is that you do not have to do it, right? So let's assume for a moment that the app we're running here, the one that is going to read data from Reddit and potentially do something with it, is actually a third-party reader. We don't want to give it our username and password, right? So what we do instead is, if the website supports OAuth 2, we first go to that website. So we went to Reddit and we registered our app. So we just create a new app. There's some stuff here, right? So you go here, create another app, and then they ask you what you want, and then the type of app. This whole thing is just registration, so it doesn't really cost them anything to add a new app. The main thing is that it gives you this client ID here. So in my case, the client ID was this guy, and then a secret right here. And again, obviously, that information you should not give to other people. So it's on my stream, so everybody has access to it. So not very good. A real app will not have this information disclosed, because this if you know this information, you can impersonate my app. You can write something else, obviously, that uses the same client ID and the same secret, and you will be able to connect. So if then that your app is doing something very shady, they will ban you, and therefore they will ban me as well. But assuming you're not going to do that, and actually I would not really care because I'm going to delete this app afterwards. That's the first step. The second step is the more complicated one, because actually Oauth has different workflows, and by workflows I mean different ways to process with the authentication. The one that's fairly common, and actually it's the first one, is called code authentication. Okay, so is that really called code authentication? Code flow. It's a code flow, and that's a two-step process. The first one is you connect and you get an authentication token. That's the name. Let me see. You get what? I think it's called code token code. Okay, I don't remember exactly the name. Let me see. Okay. Okay, they don't give me the name. Okay, this is the stuff that you're gonna get for the first step, the one-time use code. And then once you have that code, you can exchange it for a token, and the token is the real stuff that you're gonna need in passing request. So this code, as I say, is one time. It expires after 1 hour, and the token that you get, it has a validity as well. If your application needs to last longer than whatever expiration you have, then you can renew it. So that's what basically people do. The first step is, as you see here, right? The first step, we are pretending to navigate to this page. So this application is actually like a mini web server. So when it's written in Node.js, and it uses Express, which is like a web server thing, and then you define a bunch of endpoints. So basically here you're saying that if the user goes to /login, this is the handler for that request, and if the user goes to authorize callback, then this is a handler. Right? And get means that the HTTP request is a GET request. We're going to handle this. If HTTP request is a put or post or delete request, these handlers will not be invoked. So the last one is this test. If it's going to be a post request, and we're going to do this. And finally, we're saying that we want our server to listen on port 3000, and if there's an error, we print something. So that's why when we run this guy, this undefined here is basically this console error. There are no errors. There's no error. And the server is listening on port 3000. Now, if I go and so it's listening on port 3000 on localhost by default. So if I go to localhost 3000, it's going to be making a request to get /, and in this case, get / is not handled. So that's why we cannot get /. If we go and do localhost login, then this handler will be invoked. Okay. And that actually triggers our OAuth process. I'm using this library, simple OAuth, I think. Yeah, simple OAuth. Yeah, simple OAuth 2. and it's automatic. Well, it supports the authorized code workflow. Pretty simple actually. So what you do here is you create a config that has your client and ID and secret, and you put in this auth section where you want, where you want the guy to go for the authorize. Right? So by default, you would use token host that has a base URL. So it's going to be www.reddit.com. And then it's going to use some authorized path. I think by default it's like Oauth something. And they told us not to use that one. They told us to use API v1 authorized. That's why I put API v1 authorized. So when you do this guy here, this is gonna generate this URL or there's something very equivalent. Right? So you have that base URL, then you have the URI, and you're passing this client ID. Response type will be going to be code. State will be 1, 2, 3. So this is just something that differentiates different when the callback from the from Reddit, and that redirect URL. So the only thing that really is important is this URL here, because what's going to happen is this is going to create a URI, right? So actually we can print the UI. And we can log in here. So this created this UI, which is very similar to the one that we have here, right? Including this redirect URI here. So that they expect you then to move your browser to that URI, and note that that URI is on Reddit. So that's pretty important. Now you're redirected to Reddit, and Reddit will ask for your credentials if you are not already logged in. Right, so if I like log out and then do exactly the same stuff, well, now they ask me to log in. I was already logged in before, so that page didn't appear. But now I log in, and they redirect me to the same page as before. Right? So this page actually tells me that this app, my app, is trying to act on my behalf. Am I okay with that? And the stuff that they announce here, like access, posts, and comments, blah blah, right? It's the scopes that I'm asking. So I'm asking identity, which is access by Reddit username and sign up date, and asking for read permissions. So what I'm saying here is that my app is going to try to is going to want to do this, and this page here says like, am I okay with this as a user? Right? So if the app is now going to do anything that is beyond this scope, it's not going to be authorized. This app is only, even if I allow it, it's going to have permissions to only do that. If I decline, obviously nothing's going to happen. So let's be okay with that. Let's allow it. And then what? Something should have happened. All right. So what happens then is that the Reddit will now call that redirect URL. So it's actually going to, itself is gonna try to get from the browser, right? It's gonna get this particular HTTP request, make this HTTP request, right? And that request, what happens to be, of course, the one that first I have registered when I created the app. So if that URL right here doesn't match the one that was defined when you created the app, then it's gonna fail, or the whole thing is gonna fail. this URL is the one that is this guy here, right? Because we're looking at localhost 3000. So this is the server localhost 3000, and we have authorized callback, which is then therefore this guy. So normally, if you deploy this guy, this app, you can't use localhost 3000, right? You're going to deploy to some real website, and you should replace this with the real URL of the place where you deploy it. But for development, it still works, right? Because this code is actually coming from this browser, right? And therefore we are getting we're getting this guy executed. But the cool thing is that in the query section, the query parameters, sorry, we are getting a code, and that code is proof that Reddit was okay with that particular you were okay with doing this stuff, and the code should be valid. And so we have a code, but the code in itself is not going to help us much, because it's just a one-time code. It's like one of these bank one-time only password that you input. The cool thing is that you now can trade that code for the real token. So the next step is to make that get token. So this is going to do another call into Reddit, but this time at this URL API v1 access token. And this time you have to provide this information, and in particular you have to provide this code, and again this URI, this callback URI. So the second time this callback URI is pretty useless. It's not going to call you back again, right? But I don't know what they really needed. Yeah, they even comment like, well, yes, you need it again, and yes, it must match. So I'm not sure why it's really required, but if you don't provide it, it's not going to work. And then finally, that response here will have, right? You get a response from going to that URL, and that response will contain the access token, along with the expiration and this refresh token. So the refresh token is for you to re-ask an extension basically of your access token when you're getting close to the expiration time. Right. So because these tokens expire every hour. Right. So we are not doing this here. But that library also allows you to do asking for a refresh. So this workflow is a bit convoluted, but basically it's like after you log in, you will be redirected, right? So after you log in here, right, you will be redirected to the Reddit. They ask you for permission, and then you will get a code. From the code, you get a token, and you hold that token for an hour. But after that, you have to renew, right? And if you do this well, your app doesn't have to do the login again, right? But if you let time go by then you will have to basically redo the login, the Oauth workflow. So that being said, what we got here is, as you can see, we got our access token, and then access token is this guy. And since I don't want to go through the whole flow every time, I'm actually going to copy it here. So obviously you don't want to hard code this value, because the access token is not going to be valid for more than an hour. But that's just fresh, so it's going to be okay. So now we don't need to do this login anymore, because the goal of this stuff is to get this access token, right? And when you do a request to the real API, right? So for example, if you want to do a request to this URL, let's try to do it through Postman. Postman is it's a REST client, right? So you can do practically everything that you do with the browser, but direct through UI. So let's say set. Right. So if I do this URL and I say get, right. So obviously that is not going to work, right? Because we didn't pass any of the suite authentication stuff that we got, right? So it replied 4.3 forbidden. So it's actually asking us to provide authentication information. So let's start with authorization header. And these guys told us that we have to do bearer token. This is the header. So let me put bearer. And that is the token that we got. Right. So now this code should give us the code succeeded, and it replies with the JSON, which is same, right? For what we wanted. And if we put a wrong token, then we get an error. They just say for one. For one is different than for three. For one means that this is not valid authentication. So you can try. So 4.3 is more permanent. 4.3 is that no lock, you're not gonna get it, right? 4.1 means that your authentication is incorrect. So, but if you fix it, you're gonna get access. Right. Okay, so that's pretty much it when it comes to this Oauth. So why do I say that this was all pretty pointless? Is because I've been told by Mr. Pookie that you actually can just do a non-authenticated request through the main website. So let's try this one. And okay, we get the page here. But if you just do .json, then you get forbidden. Right, so forbidden is because we are providing authorization header when they don't need it, which is a bit weird. They don't want to ignore it. They just say forbidden. So I remove the header authorization, and now it's working. So actually, all this stuff is not needed for the task that we had, because actually they also provided a non-auth access to it. But to be honest, I didn't find any documentation regarding that. But I probably missed it. Let's see. It's not here. In this one. Yeah, it's not very clear. Alright, but in any case, that works. So all this stuff is pretty useless, right? You don't need to have a token at all. You can just get the page that. So normally the page is this one, right? That returns the web page. But if you add .json, then you have the same stuff as JSON. Right. Oh, so here's a trick, right? So you return the JSON, but you can see that ampersand. There's a bunch of these guys, right? So this means that the code is actually. Oh no, this is because it's in the subtext, right? So this is fine. Yeah, I think it's fine. So if I remove this guy, what are the headers? So it returns, so it returns application JSON. So exactly what we want. Alright, so that was pretty much it for today. Sorry that we did this Oauth for nothing, but actually Oauth is quite useful, even for your own website. When you have something like login through Google, and there's a button and you click on that, and then it redirects to like Google, and you can use an account for authentication, or whether it's a Google, Facebook, or GitHub, or these guys, right? This OAuth thing is going to be the same workflow. And essentially, if you have a website where you want to delegate authentication, so you don't want to take care of having username, password, and keeping them, hashing them, all that crap. You can just use the authentication of Google or Facebook through OAuth. And the mechanism is exactly the same. You would go to their website and register your application with the client secret and stuff, right? And then the your app would have a button, say like login through Google, for example. And when you click on that one, the front end will make a call to that logic here. So that logic would be exactly what you're asking for. Right? So maybe in the future I will have a short demo about that. It's really useful. If not, that's not what is needed right here for this task. Okay, that's pretty much it. All right.